This week in Post, shaping your image with localized temperature adjustments. Hey everyone, I'm Scott Davenport and welcome to In Post. Thanks for joining me today. Today is a photo teardown. We're going to go through the major processing steps that I used on a particular photo. This one's from Windansea Beach. I shared this location with you earlier this week and in the field, and this is a spot that I fully plan on taking my San Diego Coastlines workshop in September. I have a couple of seats left. If you want to come join me and your fellow photographers in San Diego for 4 days of fun in the sun with our cameras, hit up the show notes. You'll see the link to the workshop, and it'd be great to have you come join us. So let's get into today's photo, and what I find most interesting about this one is toward the tail end where we use these localized temperature adjustments that really shape the image. So here's the shot. Basically, it's out of the camera. This is no changes at all. So I'm going to use these snapshots here to go through it. The first thing I did was do a crop, and you'll see it tightened up a little bit. The image assessment here was I didn't like these buildings over here. These ones are fine, but these large ones I didn't like as much. A little heavy on the land over here. So pulling that in with the crop, straightening the horizon as well. And then did some spot removal and fine-tuning the crop. Before I show you that, besides, okay, a little ship out here, get rid of that stuff. A little bit of cleanup on the beach. And then right down here beneath the blue cursor here, that was a distracting element along the border. It's standing out by itself on otherwise pristine sand. So we'll see that stuff get cleaned up, the crop get a little bit of adjusted. Then we got into the basics. So first is the camera profile. Let's open up the basic panel. This is our defaults, things coming out of there. So the first thing I did was switch over to Vivid and really watching the greens here. Again, my subject is this mossy rock that kind of looks like a mushroom head. I want that to jump out. And one of the key things about it is it's covered in this nice green moss. I want that to be more, just rich. And the Vivid profile did a nice job of adding some richness to that, deepening some of those shadows. And we haven't even touched the slider yet. Basic adjustments is next. This is standard fare. Let me open this panel up a little more so we can see those sliders better. And doing minor adjustments to the exposure. Had a little bit of a gap up here in the upper end of the histogram. There is white in the scene, obviously, the white surf and so forth. That's actually what I used to grab for white balance. Actually, I did the white balance adjustment a little later. We'll get to that. Didn't change contrast here, but just did my normal stuff. Highlights, white point, added some clarity, slight bit of dehaze for the background because there are some hints up of clouds and so forth in the sky, bringing those into view. Then on to HSL. This is to get more greens and more blues. So we'll see greens, blues, and aquas change here. There we go. So a little bit richer in the aquas and blues out here, a little bit richer in the greens. Let's take a look at the sliders here. So first is hue. Taking yellow and shifting that toward green. Oftentimes the greens in our photos have quite a bit of yellow in them, so shifting that yellow hue toward green makes the greens pop, and then increasing the saturation of that green will take things up even higher. Same thing with saturation on aqua and blue, increased those, and then decreased the luminance to make them a little darker. This is predominantly the area where there's a lot of blue and aqua in the scene. So decreasing that luminance makes that retreat a little bit into the scene, gives us more depth throughout the whole photo. And I went back to the white balance. So we'll see the white balance shift here. Things got a little warmer, that sand became a little better color. Custom, just use the eyedropper and hit right on this surf line because this little foam bit should be pure white. Now some local adjustments. These aren't the temperature ones. This is just some basic work with contrast and clarity and so forth. Let's see what we've got here. I've got some gradients on here. You can see that one here, and that's taking care of an exposure in the sky and doing a little bit of extra dehaze just to bring back some clarity. Clarity is not the right term. Dehaze, taking away some of the bits of sea mist that are getting thrown up into the atmosphere from the surf. And also some radial filters. I've got one down over here. I've got another one over here. This one's a little bit larger. It's doing overall more contrast and punch on the water. You see that luminance range mask. It's really just hitting that foam there. So adding a little crispness to just the foam. And then this one here is focusing in on the rock. So we can see that the mask is covering just the rock and the moss, adding clarity in there, and opened up the shadows a little bit so we could see more details in that particular rock. Now we'll get into the temperature change. So this is the one that I thought really brought this photo home. So keep your eyes on what happens up in the sky up in here. This is going to get cooler, and then this midsection is going to get warmer. Let's turn on that snapshot, and it feels like a very different photo. This is 2 different adjustments. So first, let's get that gradient going on up here. So there is a temperature adjustment. You can see we're covering up the sky and the ocean, bringing the temperature down just some, really, not very heavy-handed, just a light amount. And then for the midsection, I used a radial filter, and let me find that one. I think that one is here. And we'll hover over that and see the mask. It's covering basically the middle portion of the photo. Being careful not to go up into the ocean. When I get that massive amount of sand here, I wasn't worried about this too much because I don't want your eye drawn here, and we're going to downplay that with a vignette. But doing the opposite, adding a little bit of warmth. And so let's take a look at before and after on that. This is before adding the local temperature, and this is after. It's a world of difference in my opinion. This just really made the photo jump out and kind of come alive. And the last but not least, adding a vignette. So this is standard fare. We'll take a look at the effects panel. Slight amount of darkening, midpoint's basically the same. Change the roundness a little bit so that we're only really affecting the upper corners here. If I take that feather all the way down, you can see where that line is. So it's just the corners there that are getting impacted by the vignette. So all added up, this is the original \key. Well, \key is not working. We'll just do the snapshots. Here's the original, a little flat, not so colorful, and here's the final image. The tip of the week is localized temperature adjustments. Those can really make your photo sing. Remember that cooler colors will retreat into a landscape and warmer colors will move toward your viewer, kind of approaching your viewer's eye. And playing those off of one another, you can add additional depth into your landscape photo. That'll do it for this week's In Post. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know somehow. +1s, likes, shares, always appreciated. You got questions, hit me up in the comments below, or you want to keep it private, you can shoot me a message through my website. And until next time, my name is Scott Davenport, and happy shooting.